Hello and welcome to my marvellous Minecraft multiplayer. It's the modded Java SMP that you can join. This week I've made perhaps my favourite build I've ever made in Minecraft. This is the Yeet and Bleat. This was a joint project with a close friend of mine. He was in charge of decorative building and I was in charge of the redstone techers. There's two main contraptions here. There's the Yeeter, and this relies on a lot of create mod bits, and the sheep stack silo pattern pending that should work in vanilla Minecraft, although only Java I think, and not Bedrock. Here's how it works. First, you go into the cursed ticket office, you buy yourself a ticket. I'll just unstock one. Next, you place the ticket in the contraption, press the button, you get delivered a sheep, and then 1, 2, 3, Yeet. That's a lot of fun, and it relies mainly on this create mod Yeeter, or weighted ejector as the create mod calls it. How it works is you crouch and right click to set a target, and then you right click to place it down, and then once it's powered, anything that is put on the ejector will get yeeted to the target, including entities and mobs and players. So the one we've got over here is launched over long way over that way. And we had to build out a bridge as far as it would let us, then place the target, place this, and then clear the bridge. And so anyone who steps on it is going to get launched. The next thing we have is the sheep stack silo, the sheep storage system for successful ovine storage and deployment. Let's hand over to create mode Andrew to show you how it works. I am back in my creative world. I say back because I just filmed this once and didn't hit record. This is the sheep stack silo pattern pending. I'll show you how it works. Go to the top, we pop a sheep in. The sheep drops down and joins the back of the queue. And then when we get a sheep out, the sheeps drop down, joining the rest of the queue. Now I know it's unlikely you're going to want to build this exact circuit, though it should work for other mobs and not just sheep. I am going to show you exactly how the circuit works, and what each component does, and hopefully it'll inspire you to build some of your own redstone contraptions. Now, I am not a redstone genius, I've only really just learned redstone myself, and putting this together consisted mostly of watching Mumbo Jumbo videos, learning a few sub-assemblies, and spending some time in this creative world, trying to wire them together. And I'm back in my creative world, recording this again for the third time, because in editing I realised that the sound mixing was just way off. You couldn't hear a thing that I was saying, so I'm recording this again. So the first thing you need is this. It is an observer looking at a string. Now this will issue a pulse every time you step on the string, and another pulse when you step off. So it can detect when a sheep enters a cell and when a sheep leaves a cell. But it doesn't know which is which. So for that, we need some memory. This, in particular these 4 blocks, are a T flip-flop or tileable flip-flop. For this we don't care much that it's tileable, just that it's a flip-flop. So when a flip-flop receives a redstone signal, it moves a block, so that's the flip, and that's the flop. So when a sheep enters a cell, it flips, and when a sheep leaves a cell, it flops. Now this target block is not necessary. I just use it for testing and also for debugging in when I'm making the circuit. And honestly, I could not have built this thing without putting these target blocks in. It's definitely needed. This repeater is needed because the pulse this emits is just too short. So if this was at 1 tick or not there at all, this would flip, but it would leave that observer in place just there, and so when you left, it would not flop. So you do need that set correctly so it pulls this back. The next thing we need is a pulse shortener, or if you speak for Mumbo Jumbo, a rising edge monostable circuit. When this lever turns on, it sends a signal through this block, through that redstone, and lights up the lamp. But immediately, this piston fires, removing this block, breaking the circuit, and turning off this lamp. So what you get is one short pulse each time we turn the lever on. So placing a couple of these by the flip-flop, what we get is a pulse that activates when a sheep enters, and a different pulse that activates when a sheep leaves. Enters and leaves. There's only one more piece of this puzzle, and that's repeater locking. If you fire a repeater into the side of another repeater, it locks that repeater in place. You can lock a repeater off, or you can lock a repeater on. For this circuit, we'll only need holding it off. Now before we look at the final circuit, let's look at what we need the circuit to do. When a sheep leaves a cell, we can let another sheep in from above. If she leaves, we'll let the sheep in from above. If she leaves, we'll let a sheep in from above. And we can always do this. We can always let a sheep in from above, whether or not there is a sheep above. So when a sheep leaves above, when a sheep leaves a cell, we activate the piston above. Now when a sheep enters a cell, it's different. When a sheep enters a cell, we want to open the piston below and let it down. Open below, let it down. Open below, let it down. But we can only do this if there's not a sheep below it. If there's a sheep below it, we can't open this piston and let it down. We've got to wait. So we use this. This reads whether or not simply we read the T flip-flop over the sheep below. If there's a sheep below, this signal's on and it locks that in place. So when it enters the cell, nothing happens. And when it leaves the cell, it unlocks the piston above. But when there's no sheep in the cell below, when it enters the cell, it can trigger the piston above. When it enters the cell, it can trigger the piston below, letting the sheep drop. And when it leaves the cell, it can trigger the piston above. And that's it, that's all this is doing. So if we take a look at the circuit, you can see the T flip-flops are flipped when there is a sheep in that respective cell. And we read that state, locking the repeater on the pulse shortener. This one goes to moving the piston below, and this pulse shortener goes to moving the piston above, and that is it. That's the circuit. Thanks, Create Mode Andrew. To load a sheep in, simply we hit this, sends a minecart out, grabs a sheep. Sometimes it gets stuck because it's pretty inconsistent, and then the sheep gets sent back and gets sent over to the top. If this were not so inconsistent, we would not need this silo. We'd just be able to send the signal straight from the ticket contraption to here, and it would send the sheep straight on. Actually, the sheep silo does serve two other purposes. Firstly, it looks really, really cool, and I just wanted to see if I could build it. I'm a full believer if you find yourself down this kind of rabbit hole where you've got to know if you can do something or not, you've got to see it through, however silly the result may end up. And secondly, this flock may contain baby sheep. And baby sheep you cannot yeet for two reasons. Firstly, it would be really mean. And secondly, they can escape out of this block here. The baby sheep can. And so it just doesn't really work. So having the silo means the sheep get queued. I think there's baby sheep up there, maybe there isn't. But by the time they work their way to the bottom of the system, they shouldn't be baby sheep anymore. And so they have time to age up before getting sent off to fulfill their cosmic destiny. And that's it for this week. There's a link in the description for the Discord if you want to join in the server and use some sheep for yourself. One more thing. One guy who joined in on our last server, he spent a lot of his own time helping me set up this server, so I've left in this box filled with materials and a schematic as a thank you. I don't think he's seen it yet, but when he does, I'm sure he'll know what's up. We'll check in next week to see if he's built it. Bye.